What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. This is part 2 of our DC Fandome coverage.
That's right. As promised, we are back to talk about the rest of what happened at DC Fandome, all of the trailers and the reveals and so on. There's quite a list. So yesterday, if you didn't catch it already, we talked about everything Batman, the big Batman pieces. So we talked about the Batman, the Flash, and Batman Caped Crusader. So if you haven't watched that episode, you can check that out. In the description. That was yesterday's episode. So if you want to know all of our thoughts about that, there you go.
So I just feel like it deserved its own episode, right? Don't you think? It's kind of like, it was just, there was
too much to say.
There's too much to say, and I'm a massive Batman fan. You're a big Batman fan, and clearly the Batman itself, that was like the headlining act of the fandom, if you will.
And it stole the show.
I mean,
although especially the Batman and the Flash, although we're going to talk about Black Adam. Black Adam was a pretty big splash.
Try to just lead off with Black Adam. I mean, that's what
opened up the show.
You know what? What actually opened up the show that I guess we should have brought up in the last podcast because Batman related. Before the show kicked off, they had an intro, right? Like this whole like sizzle reel narration. They had they opened up the event with narration from Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
Batman who's himself going down like a story. Like going the whole thing, like saying what a story means. And I'm like, they got Batman to narrate the open? That is the most like these. Yes. Why wouldn't you get literally the voice of Batman to open up your show with this awesome like narration and like clips of DC footage and comic books and everything DC over the years?
Right.
It was just the most appropriate thing ever to have Kevin Conroy open up the show in epic fashion. I was like, this is great. This is a great start.
A solid open. They're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
DC is.
Yes, with all those sizzle reels and stuff like that, I was like, because it definitely set the stage for everything to come on. Like, this. I got pumped. I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting goosebumps now. Let's go, DC. But that leads directly into, like we were just saying, the first big tease of the event, the Black Adam teaser.
Yeah.
That is, so The Rock presented it, as we know. Jump right into it to the teaser. It looked great. I thought it looked a lot of fun.
Amazing.
I thought it looked super badass. That's the only thing you could say, because it basically, you see them releasing Black Adam from his tomb or whatever it is, and he comes out. You see like these explorers, whatever, and they're like, what is this thing? They start shooting him, and he freaking catches the bullet, like one of the bullets with his his thumb and his index finger.
Yeah.
And it just showed the sheer monstrosity and power that Black Adam's going to have. I got vibes of like, so literally just an evil Superman.
Exactly.
Like just an evil Superman is what you're going, how you're going with this. His suit looked awesome. All the effects looked awesome. It looks like it's gonna be a massive film, like really, really big. Because I guess before even the actual teaser trailer, you see like Pierce Brosnan talking about it.
Right.
You see a brief clip of the helmet,
the
Helm of Fate.
Yes.
He's holding it. It looks great. You see glimpses of the chests of all the costumes, like Cyclone, Atom Smasher, Hawkman. From the very little bit they showed, looks like it's going to be cool. I think DC across the board is usually pretty great with their costuming. So not much. We just see Black Adam being the freaking brute force that he is. You don't even hear The Rock say one word.
He does not speak.
He does not speak at all. He's just grabs someone by the neck, disintegrates them with his electricity, bullets bounce off him, levitates in the air before he's about to wreck shop, but it cuts to the Black Adam, logo. I will say though, when it cuts to the Black Adam logo, that score, the score sounds dope. Whatever, like his theme or whatever that's gonna be, just the score in general. I'm liking this tone, like that. It makes it feel like epic and dark and mysterious.
Do we know who's composing that one?
I
don't think I've looked.
Yeah, I haven't looked either. But whoever did that for that little minute and a half teaser, whatever it was, freaking great. So I'm just more excited. It didn't show us much. We literally saw no one else, no Hawkman, no Cyclone, no Dr. Fate, just them talking about it with brief behind the scenes. But it's going to be grand. Like, I can't believe, like, even Pierce Brosnan, he says it, he's like, I was James Bond for a decade, and this is the biggest thing I've ever done, which is insane, because James Bond, along with Godzilla, is the longest running film franchise in cinema history. They have the most amount of movies. So it's like, obviously, James Bond movies go all out because that's like an American icon, a culture icon, right? So for Pierce Brosnan, one of the, guy who was James Bond for 10 years, he was James Bond when I was growing up. He was James Bond of the 90s. To say this is the biggest thing he's ever worked on, that's crazy. That's a statement.
It is quite a statement. And, you know, sometimes you hear people say that kind of stuff and it's like it's hyperbole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, they're just saying it because that's the new movie that they've got to, you know, market right now. But this movie certainly, if nothing else, because there wasn't very much to the trailer.
No.
Overall, you know, you had The Rock come out after the little featurette that they did at the beginning where you see the symbols on the chest and so on. You had The Rock, of course, come out and do his, you know, do The Rock's thing. This is the biggest thing that has happened to DC since DC. You know, that whole thing. You know what I mean? So he came out and he rocked it up and announced the trailer. And we get this first look teaser, and right out of the gate, as you said, you see these people resurrecting Black Adam. And you're like, first of all, like, who does that? Like, that's the dumbest. But, you know, he comes up, and they did a good job, I thought, while we got very little of this film. They did a good job with that little brief moment of showing his behaviors and how he responds to being shot at, and then that brief moment where he just, I mean, because he incinerates a dude.
He doesn't take kindly to it.
No, he literally picks a guy up by the throat. One of the mercenaries that are shooting at him. I assume they're mercenaries, and he just releases, you know, his magic and disintegrates the guy into powder. He just turns into a skeleton, you know, and then he just starts kind of slowly flying. It did a really good job, I think, of setting that tone of like what Black Adam is going to, he's just going to be a beast. He's just going to be a beast. So, you know, I was similar to some of the things we said about the Flash trailer. I was even more so on this in that I was disappointed at how little we actually got.
Oh, really?
I really thought we were going to get
like a full trailer,
a trailer, like an actual trailer for this movie. And really was the very definition of just a teaser. So super cool. You saw the bullets bouncing off of him, as you said, just an evil Superman. And he looks, dude, and what's amazing to me, we've talked about it before, is he got so jacked, like rocked, for lack of a better term. He got so big for this film that like
no
the
padding.
most of the suit is him.
Yeah.
And he's huge.
I heard people talking about some of the costume designers saying that the only padding that's there is the padding to just keep the form of the costume, just to keep its shape. But as far as muscle mass, it's The Rock. We see him without his shirt on all the time on his Instagram. It's like, does he need any padding? It would be ridiculous.
Yeah, enormous.
You know what I mean? So I do wish that we got some more like actual. I want to see Dr. Fate. That besides Black Adam, I may even be more excited actually to see Dr. Fate live.
I agree with
live
that,
action.
Actually.
So I was hoping we would see him in full costume, like even a glimpse, like just levitating there with his magic or something. We didn't, but I mean it's a teaser. It got me.
You weren't
hyped.
expecting a trailer?
No, I don't think I was really thinking about it that much. I was just excited to see Black Adam initially, and then the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I really, as they're showing the behind the scenes stuff, I'm like, I did want to see like Dr. Fate, even probably more so. It would have also been really cool to see Cyclone and definitely Atom Smasher. Yeah. He's going to be freaking huge, so I would have loved to see that, or even with how the relationship is going to play out. So I'm very, very curious to see when we get an actual full-blown trailer for this, because the movie comes out next year, before DC Fandome next year.
Yeah, it comes out in the summer.
Yeah, so there's not even going to be another DC Fandome before this.
This is my point.
So I'm curious to see maybe Christmas along with, or when's the next DC film that we're getting? Is it next year? We're not getting a DC film.
It's the Batman.
So I would have to imagine like first quarter of next year they're going to release an actual trailer. Maybe even Christmas. I think this Christmas they got to give us a trailer, right?
Well, I mean, my assumption would be that we would get a Black Adam trailer with the Batman.
But that's still too far. Like, you think they're going to wait that long?
I'm hoping before then. Based on the fact that it's October, we're getting the Black Adam movie comes out in July of next year, not even a year from now, and they didn't release a trailer. So my assumption is that because they're trying to keep it very close to the chest. Because again, we got, very like shockingly little in this trailer.
You know why that's kind of weird? Because last year at DC Fandome, they were only shooting the Batman for I think 3 weeks to a month, and they gave us that 2-minute teaser last year, which was pretty much a full trailer. It's essentially a teaser trailer, but it's essentially your first trailer.
Right.
And this movie has been done shooting for a month or two now.
Yeah.
They've been in post for around a month or two. That means you could have, if what I'm saying is, if the Batman crew could give us a full 2-minute trailer with only shooting for around like a month, and this film is done shooting, there's no reason we couldn't got a full blown 2.5-minute trailer.
I'll go even further. We got significantly more for The Flash, and The Flash is still in production.
That's true.
And it comes out 4 or 5 months after Black Adam does.
But I wonder too, like, if they're trying to, like, they don't want, it's weird because it's DC Fandome, so you obviously want to be excited for everything.
Yeah.
But it seems like the more we kind of talk about this, like we talked about in the first part of with our the Batman stuff, it is because we were kind of disappointed with The Flash, is if they're trying to, like, hold back all the big stuff because they wanted certain things to highlight. You know what I mean?
Without question,
they don't want, like, Keaton to be talked about at the same time as the new Batman trailer is being talked about. They kind of want to space things out. So they're like, yeah, tease, but we're going to leave the big things to live on its own. That way it doesn't, you know, they have more longevity. It's kind of like instead of releasing a season all at once, you release it weekly. So they're being talked about and start trending on Twitter for a new reason. So maybe that, I don't know. I
mean, I'm willing, I was far more mentally, I gave The Flash much more of a pass for not showing us, you know,
because they're still filming.
Yeah, they're still in production. They've got, and it doesn't come out until November of next year, of 2022.
So it's a holiday movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's more than a year out. So I was like, okay, I'm thankful that we got this much. It was really fun. It was cool. You know, it was, you know, you were a little bit more disappointed with it than I think I was. But we had
wanted that Keaton.
both of us wanted to see Keaton, as everyone did. But, you know, again, I was hoping to see that Batmobile at least. But, you know, with this one, it was more of like that's it. That's it?
No.
Wait, that's it? You know what I mean? I was really surprised. It was really just a very self-contained scene that wasn't even complete, you know, and I think that they just really wanted to demonstrate, like, this is what Black Adam is going to be. Like, it's just, Black Adam is just going to be this absolute beast.
Which, again,
evil Superman type character that's just going to wreck shop.
I enjoyed it, and I think
it was definitely fun.
Obviously, I wanted more, but I didn't even think about that until after the fact. It's cool to know now what he's going to look like and the tone of the film. Yeah. So I'm excited, but I'm a little worried that we didn't hear him talk, though. Like, not even like a line, one word, because someone brought it up on Twitter or something I read. I'm like, is it just going to be The Rock talking? Like, in the sense that, like, because they said that the point they're trying to make is The Rock is just always The Rock in films. Like, he doesn't, you know,
we've talked about that
he doesn't
before.
turn into someone like a Pattinson or a Paul Dano, or like, oh, that's like a performance.
He's not a character actor,
right? Like, is it just gonna be the freaking Hobbs from Fast and the Furious in a Black Adam suit?
Yeah,
like, is that what we're gonna get? So I'm curious to see, because I would say that though this is a big blockbuster superhero action movie, I think, especially in recent years, this character has way more depth and is way more compelling than anything The Rock has ever played. Right? Teth Adam is a very complex character.
You think?
It's a superhero, but it's all that glamour and action wrapped over a very deep character. Like, we just went over his origin story on our main variant YouTube channel, the one as told by Jeff Johns. And that is a deep, very compelling, very dark origin story with a twist. So, you know, he has to be more than just The Rock. I love The Rock, but, like, that's the only thing I'm a little worried about. Like, it looks cool, but I don't know. We'll see how it's played.
You are welcome to my team. You're echoing what I said when we found out he was cast.
Yeah, it's the more I'm seeing of it, the more, like, it's coming real, and especially just revisit. I obviously knew Black Adam's origin. He's one of the characters I like the most in DC universe. But just revisiting it and talking about it in our recent Origin of Black Adam episode, I'm like, this is a really good origin. Arguably one of the best DC villain origins of the last decade, especially retellings, modernized versions. So, like, because if you get that right, that could be really, that's awesome. That's really good.
Arguably the most compelling outside of Batman.
Yes.
Arguably the most compelling character DC has presented today.
Yes.
In terms of his story,
where he came from.
Right.
Yeah.
All of it. The
Like,
mythology, the symbolism, because this deals with, because you're 100% echoing, that was my fear, like right out of the gate. You remember, my fear was, it's The Rock. I love The Rock.
So do I.
Really, he does some really fun stuff, but he's not a character actor. He's really not known for accents, right?
Right, that's another thing.
Teth Adam comes from Egypt. Like it's like this very deep lore, and this is a story, his backstory, and this is where I was like, I don't know, how's that going to be? Is this just going to be The Rock playing Black Adam? Because if when they announced that they were doing an origin film, that's where the concern really kicked in.
Which you have to, obviously. They have to introduce
you
the
need
character.
to do this character justice. So now you're getting into a story that deals with slavery, the psychological effects and the broad scale consequences of oppression, right? And all these different things. The rise of a strong man who thinks he's doing the right thing, but in the wrong way.
You know what it is? I think because, like you said, all that, it's very compelling, very deep, emotions to convey and all that stuff. And The Rock, in his favor, when he was going over at last year DC Fandom with that Boss Logic / Jim Lee motion comic thing, he hits all that. And so we know they're going to explore all that. But I'm like, if you do it right, amazing. But it could also go very Scorpion King.
Exactly.
Because that's also of that. No, okay. Not like.
So you have to be fair. He's come a long way. He has.
But I'm saying, like, Scorpion King is also kind of in the past like that. It's Egyptian and all that stuff. It's all in the same vein. That was also The Rock. He has come a very, very, very long way. But I'm saying just even the tone of that movie, I don't want. Like, I don't think it's going to be. I'm fearful.
You're nervous.
I'm nervous.
Which is exactly where I've been with this whole thing. He's actually eased some of my concerns with the presentation of the original concept from last year's Fandom.
Yeah, so we know we're getting all those beats.
And then this. I guess where my concerns remain now, the stuff that hasn't eased, is the accent. Is there going to be one? And what's that going to sound like? Yeah. And I just have to imagine, how do you do this character without some form of an accent?
Yeah.
He's from Kahndaq.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's not American. You know what I mean? He's not, he needs to have, for that to really land, he needs to have an accent. How's that going to sound? I'm going to give The Rock the benefit of the doubt. Because here's the main reason that I'm more than willing to give The Rock is the one thing you can never take away from that man is his work ethic.
Yes.
He is going to put in 120% to get this as right as possible. So that gives you, a little bit of...
I want to hear him talk so bad.
Yeah,
that's the thing,
I do too.
Because his voice...
and that lands where my other concern lies, and this is probably the bigger one, is are they going to make sure we're not just getting a movie that's just riddled with a whole bunch of scenes of The Rock doing this?
Just action beats over and over.
Yeah,
and over
just,
and over.
The people's eyebrow while he does something really cool, and then the hero pose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or the villain evil villain hero pose. As long as we don't get that, and he doesn't treat this like it's another Fast movie, or some of the more recent action films that he's done where it's just kind of The Rock doing The Rock.
Well, that's
right.
The whole point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as this is treated differently. And it seems, for everything that he's saying and everything, how he's presented it, it very much seems like he knows this is, and also just the story of Teth Adam, it seems important to him.
Well, he's been working on this, since
years.
For, I believe almost a decade they've been trying to get this off the ground. Way before, even around Man of Steel time, he's been wanting to do this character for a very, very long time.
And that could make all the difference.
So, I hope so. I really like Shazam. The Shazam universe. Shazam is one of my favorite DC characters. I would say, him and Martian Manhunter kind of fall in that underrated category for me, where they're finally starting to get a lot of recognition now with the live action Martian Manhunter appearing briefly in the Snyder Cut, Shazam on a second movie. So, and I know this is obviously going to intersect with the Shazam movie. I would imagine after the end of Fury of the Gods or at the end of Black Adam, you see Black Adam meet Shazam, or vice versa, or they hear about each other somehow. I would think at the end of Black Adam, he would learn that, wait, the Wizard gave someone else this power. Someone else has this power now, and
you would think that would be pissed
because he wants his power. Because spoiler alert, if you know his modern origin, he did the same thing to his nephew. Him and his nephew were bestowed the power by the Wizard Shazam, but he didn't agree with what his nephew wanted to do. His nephew wanted to do the right thing, be a hero with it, and be kind to people and just help people with his power. He's like, no, we need revenge, so he killed him and stole his power. So I would imagine
dark.
Yeah.
Really dark.
So I would imagine the best transition for that was for him to find out, oh, there's another one of me. The Wizard did this one last time. Okay, and then that's how they're going to intersect in either Black Adam 2 or Shazam 3. But either way, these two characters are very important to me personally. always liked them. They're two of my favorite DC characters. So I'm just hoping. I'm hoping they do it justice.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. And then you have other favorites of mine, like Dr. Fate. He's a favorite of yours too.
Yeah.
I really like him. I feel like if you do him right and Pierce Brosnan, I personally, comic-wise, I know this is going to be probably not a very popular opinion, but I like Dr. Fate more than Doctor Strange as far as mystical characters go.
You're not alone in that camp.
You know, I really dig Dr. Fate, and I feel like he can easily get his own trilogy, just like Strange has in the MCU. So I'm hoping this is the first of many for Pierce Brosnan and Dr. Fate, and I just really want to see him next.
I would say when it comes to Dr. Fate, I like his mythology better than Doctor Strange, but I like Doctor Strange better as a character.
Okay, that's fair.
And you know, the fact that he's a sorcerer, he's the Sorcerer Supreme, and I like those. So overall, I would say I like Doctor Strange more. But I agree with everything you just said. There's so many elements to this film. You know, with their introduction of the JSA, or you know, a good portion of it. We might get the whole thing. Who knows? But we're seeing some really, like Hawkman is going to be Cyclone. You know, we're seeing some really cool characters introduced into this film. Big question mark for me is, where does this movie open? Do we open in the past? Do we start in the present and work our way to the past? How does that all play out? At what point does he realize that the Shazam gave the power to Billy Batson? And you know, he was willing to kill his own nephew. So
he's definitely he'll kill kids. He killed his
own
nephew.
So imagine what he'll do to Shazam.
Yeah,
you know, because ultimately his whole goal is to rid the world of oppression. He just thinks genocide is a way to do that, which is, you know, it's very Thanos. So this is essentially, in my view, this is like the DC universe getting their Thanos in a way. Not quite the same.
No,
but in terms of power set.
It's an evil Superman.
He doesn't have the Infinity Gauntlet, obviously, but you know what I'm saying.
It's, you know, The Rock has even called out every hero.
Yeah.
Last year at DC Fandome, he called out Superman, Aquaman, all of them. So, but the other thing is, like, we know we have the Shazam family. So whenever it intersects, he's fighting all of them. So
the whole team.
And does Superman even get into? Does something happen to the Shazam family, where now Superman?
Fury of the Gods.
Yeah, Fury of the Gods, where like, it's just Shazam and freaking Black Adam going at each other when they finally meet. But you know, my dream is to have Henry Cavill Superman and Shazam face off against Black Adam. Yeah. That would be amazing. But I guess, I mean, this is a kind of a nice transition to go to Fury of the Gods, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I guess we should start talking about Fury of the Gods, which I guess
because they intersect. Or you would think they're going to.
They're going to intersect, and so I guess going right into that, Shazam Fury of the Gods looks so much bigger than the first one.
Like, unbelievably different.
It looks so cool. Just the costuming alone. You see, like, all the mythical creatures they're introducing in here.
It's like crazy.
Dude, They
went much bigger.
The dragons and everything like that. The costumes, first and foremost, Shazam and the Shazam families got an awesome upgrade. Their costumes look so much better because though I liked the first one, I think we both agreed it looked a little, like, too kiddie and like cheesy because it was clearly he was in a muscle suit.
It looked lower budget.
Yeah, it was like
still fun.
Yeah, but it was like obviously you're in a muscle suit. I think that was the thing for me the most, where it's like we know you're not that big, Zachary Levi. I love you, Zachary, but that's not your muscle.
Yeah,
it didn't look natural. Where this one looks very natural.
He got a little bit bigger.
But just there's obviously still a little padding on there, but it doesn't look. I don't want to say goofy, but it doesn't look as noticeable as the first version. It's just across the board. It's a pleasant upgrade. But just the film overall, you got Helen Mirren in the film, and
they announced who the adversaries are.
And how they're coming. They're coming back to, I guess, the present and stuff, and they come into conflict with the Shazam family. It just seems really fun.
I mean, they're talking about.
They're
going to Olympus.
They're going to Olympus, like a bunch of different worlds. Like, what was the other one? Several different worlds they're going to. Like, oh my gosh, what is the name of that world?
Hades?
No, oh man, it was like the something of the gods. They say it in the teaser. I know people.
Oh, the Mountain of the Gods?
Maybe it was that. I don't know.
That's Olympus. But
I don't know. There was like 3 different other worlds they're visiting. That's the point. They're going to a lot of different points.
They're dealing with Greek mythology.
And
so you have Helen Mirren playing Hespera, and I can never pronounce that name. It's Hespera, and you have Lucy Liu playing Calypso, which I did not.
We knew that, though. We knew that.
Did we know that?
We did, yeah.
I guess I forgot, and I was just like, that's such a weird casting.
I mean, they showed us more. It was basically they showed us a bunch of behind the scenes. They didn't show us any official footage.
Right.
But It looked fun, man. I think this could be better than the first one. I really enjoyed the first one. I thought the tone was perfect.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing with Shazam is what if a kid got Superman's powers?
Right.
That's pretty much the whole thing. It's like, obviously, you would do fun stuff with it because you're like this 12, 13-year-old, like, oh my God, I could do this. And they did that in the movie. Really cool. So I think they're just doing more of that in this movie. And ultimately, hopefully, it all leads to the confrontation we all want with Black Adam. Because again, it has to intersect.
That's the bill. That is the really, I don't want to sound sound disparaging in any way to Shazam, because Shazam, the first movie, was like we agreed, super fun, really fun movie. The second one I think looks even bigger. I said this about the first one, I wasn't big on them introducing the Shazam family in the first film.
You said they did that too soon.
Yeah, I felt like it was too soon. It felt rushed. The castings felt a little bit CW touch for me. But still fun. I'm still good with it. I'm a little bit, and now going into the second one, you've got the Fury of the Gods. There's this conflict that's going to erupt between Shazam and the Shazam family and the Greek gods.
In their fury.
Yeah, and they're apparently furious about something. So we're going to be obviously going to much bigger places, huge set pieces, and it's probably going to be a lot of fun. But for me, it all really does come down to, this is a setup for the confrontation between Shazam and Black Adam. And how is that all going to play out? How are they going to connect these two dots? And will Superman come into play? Because he does do that brief cameo at the end of Shazam in the post-credit or the mid-credit scene. And so them letting you know, like, Superman is in this world. They let you know that throughout the film. Batman too. So it's like, will they come into play at some point?
That's the thing. I mean, Superman literally did a favor for Shazam at the end of that movie. So it's like they're friends or buddies, at least. They're acquaintances.
Right, because he's equally almost as powerful as Superman is.
So, man, that would break the world if Cavill were like, ta-da, even just announced that, like, after Fury of the Gods and after Black Adam, like a freaking post-credit scene, just like Superman shows up and she's like, I hear you need help. Man. Something like that. And it's just that it teases a confrontation with them in the next movie between Shazam and Superman, and then against Black Adam.
And speaking of teases, how disappointed were you that we got not a single thing about Henry Cavill Superman out of this? Not a single. Not a surprise. I'm getting used to it at this point. Nothing. It's like I'm getting all the rumors were a big fat goose egg.
Yeah, because we got nothing on Michael B. Jordan, actually.
Yeah, nothing Superman
in his Superman project, or supposed Superman project. So that's
the
kind of
rumored Superman project.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that though too. Even the Green Lantern HBO Max show.
That's true.
They've already casted several roles.
That's true.
Nothing. Not a poster. Not a like, hey, it's coming out. Nothing.
Also, no updates on Gotham PD.
No updates on Gotham PD, which you also know is happening. Or no,
another HBOMax series.
They also didn't talk about the Penguin HBOMax series for the Batman, which
that one wasn't because they
didn't want to take away.
Yeah,
but it's still in early development. We know they're working on it, so I don't know. There was a few things like that where I'm like, really? We know that's actually confirmed, and you didn't even touch on it.
Yeah,
okay.
I guess they didn't have anything together, but certainly, I think the bigger surprise for me is that we got. I mean, okay, I don't want to say nothing Superman, because they did talk about a couple of things they're doing with Superman in the comics.
In the comics.
Yeah, they revealed that they're changing his motto to
Truth,
Justice, and a Better Tomorrow.
Yep. Did you hear the real reason for that, apparently, is because of copyright?
No.
Apparently, the real reason is not because they just want to change it. It's because they lost copyright on Truth, Justice, and the American Way, and they were kind of forced to. Because
why would they have lost copyright?
I was watching and reading this article where it breaks down. They even show like all the websites that show how the copyright works and when it goes in and out. And it like because it's no like secret that DC or Warner Brothers is in a constant battle with the family of the Siegel family, the Schuster family for like the Superman rights, because they literally bought Superman back in the day for $125,
right?
And now it's like this $1 billion property. So it's there's a whole bunch of legal mumble jumbo that I read but don't necessarily remember. I don't want to say it and say it wrong, but the point of it is copyright kind of supposedly forced them to change it, not just them being like, we want to change it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean they had already been abandoning the Truth, Justice, and American Way for a long time. And
back in 2007, 2008 is when this started, and eventually now they finally had to just like, forget it. We'll update it. We don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah. Well, regardless of whatever the reasoning is, they announced that. which I don't know. I don't know that there's a whole bunch of people out there going, wow. You know what I mean? It was just like, okay. You know, just everything the Superman they released, it was stuff that we already knew and they were just kind of elaborating on. They announced that. But as far as anything live action, we got the Superman Lois behind the scenes featurette, and then just talking about season 2.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think that the first season we talked about that was good. And
I know you logged on to HBOMax over the weekend, right? You had to.
Sure, yeah.
They had the big DC Fandome banner, so you had Aquaman, Jason Momoa, you had Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, and you had Tyler Heckler Superman on there, which was really weird because I'm like, you got the 2 movie like Wonder Woman and Aquaman. And then Henry Cavill Superman is nowhere to be seen. You chose the CW Superman.
Yeah, Tyler
which is
Hoechlin,
like,
yeah. It's you know, it's just endlessly like, I just want to know what you're doing. I guess that's sort of one. And this is just a fan talking. I get it. You know what I mean? Obviously. But I just want to know what you're doing. Like, is Henry Cavill still playing Superman or not? Are we getting a new live action Superman for the big screen? Or are you just abandoning Superman entirely?
Poor Cavill.
What a weird direction that would be to go.
But it's just weird because you're clearly continuing Jason Momoa, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, right?
Yes.
So how do you get rid of? Because if you kill off Affleck in the Flash movie,
right?
Okay, you kill him off, but how do you explain Cavill? I mean, I guess timelines in the Flash movie you could technically if you wanted to, but it's like, why would you? He's willing to do it. He's been very vocal.
Yeah.
That he just give me the call, Warner. Give me the call.
And to be fair, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
It's
like
true.
That's what people say publicly versus what's actually happening.
Dude.
Are I would even be willing to say most of the time are total opposites or very different from what's going on in reality.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, okay, now we've got this Supergirl. Sorry. Now we've got Supergirl is cast and is going to be in the Flash. We've already gotten a very brief glimpse of her. And it's like, okay, so we know we've got Supergirl. Is that it? Is Superman done and it's Supergirl now?
But if Supergirl exists, there's obviously a Superman.
Yeah. So it's like, that's what I mean. It's like, I really would just like, I would love to know, like, what are you doing and why aren't you doing anything with it?
What if they change it, like, because she's a Supergirl from another Earth, so they introduce a new Superman, the Superman from her Earth? Kind of like what they did in DC Comics, how they explained killing off like the New 52 Superman, and then they brought off that other Superman who was from another world, but then they made him the Superman, the main Superman for Earth Prime. That it would fit in line with comic book confusingness, but
it would. But why go?
Yeah,
that
I know.
route
I want Cavill. I want him.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like he still hasn't been given his due yet. He had Man of Steel. He appeared in BVS, and he was in the Snyder Cut and Justice League briefly.
Yeah.
But like, no, we haven't got to see him in his prime is what I guess we're saying. I guess like, technically you can argue Justice League, but like a solo movie in his prime.
Yeah, and just like with the Hulk on the Marvel side.
Give me World's Finest. I'll take that.
Yeah. It's
dude.
the Man of Tomorrow, like whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting, just like with the Hulk on the Marvel side. I'm just waiting for them to give the character his due. And to where we get to see, just like what we're hoping to see with the Batman film, with Batman. We're hoping to see this kind of young, still rage-filled, you know, kind of little unhinged Batman.
Yeah.
I really want to see that Superman that is at peak power and to where he's got to fight a seriously formidable foe.
Yeah.
Where we get to see him just go off. We just have never gotten that.
No.
And so I'm really hoping. I know we got totally sidetracked. Main thing is Superman. There's not much happened. Still hoping to see that. We got Superman Lois coming. Season 2, I'm sure, is going to be great. But I really hope that is ultimately the surprise is Superman does end up appearing in either Black Adam or the Shazam film. And maybe he's the pin that connects the two.
I feel like The Rock himself wants to go after Superman more so than even Shazam. So what if, like, in that world, like, Cavill, you know, Superman is like, what the freaks? What's happening? Who's this guy freaking killing people? Like, Black Adam shows up and he's like, you know, full on, like, chest open, shows the S, like, I got to go figure out what this Black Adam guy's doing. And then Shazam gets brought in after that because he's like, hey, he's got powers from the Wizard too. What's happening? And then they explain all that stuff. So there's a lot of ways you can go. There's a lot of ways we can go, and we'll have to see. I mean, again, Black Adam looks fun. We didn't see much. Shazam, we didn't get a trailer, but the behind-the-scenes stuff was very cool. And
both of us, I think, would agree. We just hope Superman ties it all together.
For sure. The next thing we got only behind the scenes footage of is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Yes.
So that no teaser, no trailer, just behind the scenes. And
it was a cool featurette.
It was a really cool featurette. It's basically kind of like Fear of the Gods, where it's just more of the first.
Yeah.
Way bigger budget, way more characters. We've seen Ocean Master Patrick Wilson is obviously in this movie as well. Curious to see how that's handled after Aquaman took the throne from him. But also Black Manta is in it now. And can I tell you something, Tim? I posted.
You were really big on the suit.
Dude, I posted it on my personal Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. It is literal perfection. That is one of the most, I think that automatically goes in top 5 most comic accurate comic book costumes ever.
I would have to agree with that,
couldn't believe how good, and that's a hard costume to pull off, because for all, it's, when you really look at it in the comics, it's pretty goofy looking. It's this big freaking helmet that's like, looks like a football with the big red eyes. Like,
it's still goofy though.
Right, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like, you know what it is? I'm like, they basically took Alex Ross's drawings and just pulled it into real life, because Alex Ross does that realism.
Sure.
So I'm like, this is like, because in the first one, I like the first one, but the head was a little too big, too exaggerated. It was more armored, because in the first Aqua movie, we see he's figuring out, he's been given this Atlantean tech from Ocean Master to make his suit and all that stuff. So this is a more like, freaking final version of his suit. He's now figured out how the technology works. It's not as big and bulky. It's sleeker. It looks like a cool wetsuit, which it's supposed to be. Man, it's just, visually, it looks great. And now because we saw at the end of Aquaman, he's got because in the first movie, obviously, he's going after him because Aquaman,
right? Sure,
he blames him for killing his father,
right?
But after the confrontation they had in the first film, it's even that much more like that. I'm going to get you.
Yeah, because now they've actually gone. They've
gone head to head. We thought he killed him, but obviously he survived. We see at that end credit scene. So man, I'm just excited to see more of the first. I like the first Aquaman. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's not one of my favorite DC movies, but I had fun watching it.
Right.
I thought there was a lot of things that could have been done better, and some things that didn't fit, like especially like that whole middle scene between Mira and Aquaman, where it turned into like a romantic movie. That was kind of weird and off-putting. But I like the film, and I think like if they kind of go more on just the action coolness of Aquaman, now that he is King of Atlantis, you could nail it even more. It's already the most successful DC movie of all time. So, like, just on that front, it is like the best. But
right, I guess you want to frame it that way.
I'm sorry, it's financially for them that they're all about numbers. They're like, this was our biggest moneymaker. But as far as story, I'm hopeful that now that he's Aquaman, it's set. It'll be more streamlined, and we just get more of all the coolness that I loved from the first one.
Yeah, I wasn't huge on the first movie. I was frankly shocked at how big the movie actually ended up being financially.
$1 billion
at the box
movie.
office. Yeah, and I'm still can't believe, we were talking about this a little while ago, I still cannot believe that Aquaman is DC's biggest financial success to
Justice
date.
League, dude.
Yeah, over everything. Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
You can go on and on.
That counts the Nolan films too, doesn't it?
Yeah, everything.
That's crazy.
So that still is shocking to me, especially because it's Aquaman. Aquaman, while a very cool character, I'm a fan of Aquaman.
As am I.
Especially the new 52 version. I thought
Jeff Johns made him super cool.
Jeff Johns did an amazing job of taking what I thought was still a fun character. I loved Aquaman when I was a kid. Still a fun character, but kind of really making him very cool and tougher.
He took all those fish jokes and made him own it and be like, yeah, but you do realize most of the earth is my domain, because most of the earth is water. So I'm literally the ruler of this earth.
So he emphasized how powerful he actually was. He did a really good job of that. So, but a lot of people make fun of Aquaman. A lot of comic book fans tease and make fun of Aquaman. So it was interesting to me and shocking that it was as successful as it was. Having said that, I thought James Wan did a really good job of creating this visually, really fascinating world for Aquaman and its characters to live in and to fight each other and the whole thing. There was some, I loved, I guess, that it was very self-aware in that it didn't apologize for having a dude battling, a guy riding a whale, a battle-armored whale, with a battle-armored giant seahorse. You know what I mean? Like, if you just said that, like, you say it out loud, it just sounds utterly absurd.
For sure.
But They kind of just, they made no apologies for it. They played it straight, but with some self-awareness, and it just made it fun. So it was just like, okay, it was a fun movie. I wasn't the biggest on it. It was just like, okay. But this one, they, just like with Shazam, it looks like they're going way bigger even with this one. And that wasn't a small budget film. They actually went all in on that one.
Well, any movie we know just in Hollywood in general that deals with water, people hate Hollywood hates doing water movies because it's just, it's chaos and very expensive.
Very expensive. Now, having said that, with the Aquaman films, including the first, they figured out how to do water, not in water.
Yes.
Like they're on wires and they're kind of floating around, and they figured out how to move them certain ways, and then they did CG for the hair and stuff like that. And but with this, they're adding much more dimensions to the underwater world. They're adding a next level of depth to the conflict between Aquaman and Black Manta. You've got this other with Orin, his brother, that's still ongoing, and because he was imprisoned at the end of the first film. And so you're going to see this, just kind of go up a notch. And everything that they showed, I think it looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. I think it looks like it's going to be bigger, more visually compelling than even the first one.
Yes.
And, I'm curious to see where it goes, because just like with all the other Zack Snyder characters, it just falls into the category of, you're doing this huge movie with these big characters and all this kind of stuff, but is it going to just live on its own? Is it supposed to continue to tie into everything? That's what is still just kind of like everything else, is just lingering in the back of my mind, is where is this going to fall? Where does it fit in to these other stories you're telling? How do they connect? Do they connect? Right. And if not, what happens to Aquaman ultimately? So, it's certainly fun. And when does that one come? When does that one drop? I don't remember the release date. Is that one?
I believe that's since
2023?
I believe so. I don't remember. There's so many dates between.
We're still a ways out.
Yeah, we're a little ways out. I mean, they just started filming like a few weeks ago. Something like that.
Yeah, not that long
and
ago.
I imagine that's going to probably be like a 3-4 month shoot.
But they had a lot of stuff to show, like concept art and so on in the featurette that made it interesting.
I know they also announced before DC Fandom, though, that the shark is going to be a villain in the film, who is not King Shark. It's a completely different shark
different
villain.
Character. So
they didn't tease that at all. So I'm wondering who the main villain is going to be, because Black Manta's in it. For me, I would want Black Manta to be the main villain. In the first film, it was King Orm, Ocean Master. He was the main villain. Black Manta was the side villain. I want that to be flipped now. I want Black Manta to be the main villain, and King Orm, we know, is in it, but he will be the side villain. But it also seems like they're throwing in the shark in the mix as well, too. So, which is kind of confusing, though, because it's like, I wonder how they're going to play that, because we just got King Shark in the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad. So I'm almost wondering, like, would it have been a better transition to just, since you've already introduced King Shark, just to bring him over, like, because I know the King Shark from James Gunn is way more like of the comedic thing, but I feel like you still could have made that work here. I don't know. I have no idea what they're doing. What's the point? I just feel like the fact that they're doing two shark, like a character called King Shark and a character called the Shark in the same universe, so close to one another, is going to be a little confusing for non-comic book fans, people who just watch the movies and stuff.
Well, I guess for me, it really comes down to, are they in the same universe? That's where the big question.
This rabbit hole again, right?
Yeah, that's really, and it goes back to what I was saying before, I guess, where it's like, where does this land?
Well, in freaking the Suicide Squad, Bloodsport, Amanda Waller says he's in prison because he sent Superman to the ICU.
Right, but what's Superman?
You would have to assume it's Cavill,
but
right?
we don't know is the problem.
It's true. It's not. But I mean, why else say that?
It could be, for all we know, it could be a yet to be introduced Michael B. Jordan Superman.
But why? I don't know. Yes, because if you leave things vague enough and you don't say it outright, you can go wherever you want. But it's also like, why say it? Because if you say that, obviously everyone's going to assume it's Cavill. That's going to be everyone's first assumption.
Right.
So it's like, okay. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It just ends up in the same exact spot. It's like, I just want more definition as to
where everything fits.
Yeah, because, and again, the reason that I guess it's standing out the most is because we started off in this interconnected storytelling.
And because of the
and
Snyder
then it just
stuff,
it just splintered
yeah.
into all these different things with no explanation, no rhyme or reason really to anything. They just kind of started continuing making certain movies and not others, and without any explanation as to why, and dismissed the interconnectedness of these stories, which is, again, that's fine. You want to do that, but then just say that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Tell the fans that, like, we are not moving forward with an interconnected universe anymore. We're just going to tell stories about these characters, and they're going to kind of live in their own space. But they're not doing that. It's just kind of like hovering, and they know it is, and I don't know why.
There's no confirmation. That's the thing that we've talked about this, in excess on the podcast over the last year and a half, where it's like, where does the Batman land? Is that gonna be brought into the DCEU because Affleck, we all assume is out as of the Flash, like all this stuff. It's like Aquaman, clear, and Wonder Woman specifically, and Ezra Miller were from the Snyderverse.
Right.
All the Flash, Wonder Woman, Aquaman were casted by Snyder himself.
Right. And
they're all still going. They're all getting their solo movies. Wonder Woman got 2 movies. Aquaman's on a second. Flash is getting his first one, which is freaking bringing Keaton. And so it's like, what are you, I will leave it at this without ranting like I have in the past. If the Flash movie doesn't give us answers because it's dealing with timelines, freaking Keaton Batman says it in the little teaser. If that doesn't give us any answers to where everything lands and, who's who, what's what, I'm going to be livid.
Yeah.
We need something. You can't leave us in this purgatory of where things fit forever. You have to, at some point, you have to be like, this is this. You can't just be like, leave it open so you have options to change things.
Right.
You have to eventually pick a route and go down it. You can't be in this purgatory of like, well, we don't want to say because maybe we want to do this if that's not successful. No.
Right.
Pick a plan, stick to it for better or worse.
I completely agree. It's really, everything you just said is really at the heart of my frustration and why I keep bringing it up.
Yeah.
And I think it's very relevant to bring up again now after DC Fandome 2021, because one of the things I don't know about anybody else, but one of the things I personally was looking for was some cohesiveness.
Yeah.
I was looking for DC Fandome to take the next step of bringing it together and saying, this is how these things relate or don't. This is how we're moving forward. And that was one of the big disappointments of the day. It made the whole day feel kind of underwhelming for me and not as good as 2020's Fandome. We got to see a lot of cool stuff, but it didn't feel cohesive. It didn't feel like it was just like, here's all the things we're doing with DC's characters and franchise. That's
the thing. They're pushing the multiverse, even in the comics, with the Omniverse and stuff. As of, recently, last year with comic books, they're pushing at the end of Death Metal with the Omniverse and everything counts, past, present, future. It's all continuity. And they're kind of bringing that over into the films where Andy Muschietti has said that anything DC counts in the multiverse. It's all existed that's why Flash, Ezra Miller was in CW and stuff like. So it's like, yes, we know it all exists. That's literally the point of a multiverse. Got it. Cool. Didn't even really have to tell us that. That's what a multiverse is. Different times live, different versions. Got it. But what is the main timeline? That's all we want to know. We get that there's the CW universe. Right. We get that Keaton obviously exists because he's in this movie. We get that Affleck's Batman. We get that all, Barry could technically go over to Pattinson Batman. Got it. Cool. Awesome. But what is the main timeline that all these infinite timelines stem from?
Right.
What's Prime? What's Earth Prime? Yeah. What is it? Tell us. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and that's what I think left me so kind of a little bit underwhelmed and a little bit frustrated even at the end of DC Fandome, is that they didn't even hint at any of that. And then furthermore, we're getting the Batman in March, which I don't anticipate, and I don't think you do either, is going to give us any answers to that regard.
No.
And then we're getting Black Adam, which I also don't think is going to give us any answers. The bigger pieces, you would think.
Could you imagine if Black Adam isn't even connected to Shazam? Because it's its own thing. Could you imagine they never talk of Shazam? Like, we don't even.
That's crazy.
If we don't even get a mention in the first movie of Shazam, that's
going to be I can't. I'm not going to even say. I don't want to jinx it.
Imagine, dude.
I mean, I could imagine, I guess, but that would be shocking. I will say that would be shocking. For me, that would be shocking. But we know we are likely going to get answers about all of this in the Flash movie.
You have
but
to.
That's not until November of 2022. And I just checked, Aquaman is December of 2022. So we're getting...
Oh, it's back to back.
Yeah, so we're getting Shazam in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I think it's beginning to kick off the summer. But the point is that that's a long way out for us to start getting any answers still when you're doing DC Fandome and, you're doing all of these different things. It's like, why not just do something to let the fans know this is the direction that we're headed? Because you're doing a lot of things.
No, I think.
But they've got so many things that are underway for you to still not know that. That's really
I agree
not
with
the
you.
best.
I 100% agree with you. I need clarity. It's been almost 2 years where things, ever since the Snyder Cut stuff, it's all just been up in the air. Because now they've released the Snyder Cut. We got it.
Exactly.
I loved it. But it's like, what does that mean now? Like, I guess, the heads of Warner Brothers stuff, they were hinting, it's just its own thing. It's like, they were pretty much saying it doesn't connect to anything, but it's like, but it kind of does, because you're still using the Aquaman. You're still using the Flash.
You're still using
Wonder Woman. So no matter what you really say, these characters are still getting these movies from you. So yes, they do matter.
Yep. And that's been my continued big, giant, looming question mark.
If you're going to keep using Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot, all these characters that Snyder established, you have to explain how that works.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to, you know what I mean? You have to at least say that Barry ran and screwed everything up, so that never really happened.
Yep.
Something, anything.
Yeah, it doesn't. It has never made much sense to me. It's been one of the most perplexing parts. It continues to be, and I was very disappointed that we did not get in any steps towards bringing that in, together, or bringing that to some sort of a head or an answer,
right?
At DC Fandome.
But to throw more wrenches into that, Tim, I said wrenches, not even a wrench, because we're throwing several. Because this adds more to the confusion.
Yeah, it's a bucket of them.
Where 2 more movies we're getting for we would assume is the DCEU, or we don't know, but again, I'm going to say assume is Blue Beetle and Batgirl.
Yes,
they're going to be HBO Max movies, so they're basically doing what Netflix and Amazon and Hulu are just doing big budget movies that still have pretty much the same budget, if not the exact same budget as one that would be released in theaters, but it's going straight to HBO Max.
Yeah.
So we didn't get much. We heard the directors from Blue Beetle and the Star talk. We saw the directors for Batgirl and the Star talk. And then they just released concept art for each. So we got concept art of Blue Beetle.
A singular image.
One image, yeah. So one image of Blue Beetle, concept art, looks great, ripped from the comics.
Very cool.
Same thing with Batgirl. She's on top of a gargoyle in Gotham City. She's got the red hair. She looks like she's even got the yellow-purple going on, ripped from the comics. Perfect. But we didn't get much more from that. They're just like, we're going to start shooting soon. We're still, the Blue Beetle, they said that the costume's not even made. It's not final yet. They just know what it's going to look like as far as concept art. But, where does it land? Especially Batgirl specifically. Because anything you do with Batman now, I'm like, because you've already established your Batman and stuff like that. So it's like, where does Batgirl land? Is Jeffrey Wright her dad in this universe? Or that's just its own solo thing. Yeah. So does that mean her dad is J.K. Simmons? That's what I'm saying. Where does it all land?
My guess is there is a much greater likelihood that these 2 characters are going to live inside the same space as Robert Pattinson's Batman.
Batgirl?
Batgirl and Blue Beetle.
And Blue Beetle. I still think that Matt Reeves' Batman is going to be self-contained. I still think it's going to be its own thing. Because we know we're getting GCPD and we know we're getting the Penguin that's in that universe. But I feel like Matt Reeves is going to be, because he's involved with both those, GCPD and the Penguin. So I feel like anything that's connected to the Batman, he's going to at least be producing, and he's not producing any of the other stuff. So we know for a fact that GCPD and the Penguin, that Matt Reeves is overseeing that. He's going to at least be producing or executive producing. And he's not for Blue Beetle or Batgirl. He has no involvement. So I don't think those are going to be in the Batman continuity just because of that alone. Because I would think anything he's doing, he's going to at least produce to make sure it lines up with what he's doing.
Maybe.
I mean, it seems like Warner Brothers is giving him full, anything you do, you could be attached to in some form.
Yeah. I mean, but I also know that these are being produced.
Well, I said anything you do could be attached to in some form. Obviously, anything he does could be attached to some form. Okay, anything that DC does that they want to have attached to the Batman universe, I think they would allow him to at least produce it, to oversee it, because he's the ship. He's like the captain guiding that ship.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a fair assumption. But does that mean for sure? No. for me, it seems more likely that they would move in the direction of what Matt Reeves is doing with the Batman, than move closer to, you know, these other characters that you would have to imagine at some point are going to get phased out, i.e. Batman's, Ben Affleck's Batman possibly being killed off in The Flash. We know that we're getting a Wonder Woman 3. They talked about that before, and they further discussed it further at Fandom this year. So we know we're getting another Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot. So that's happening. These characters aren't going away right away, but, you know, the Snyderverse characters, I have to imagine, are going to live on their own for a little longer, and then are going to get phased out somehow or integrated into this other stuff that they're doing. Otherwise, what do you do with Batman? Do you just have Batman self-contained and he does not cross over and interact with any of these other characters? Or do you cast yet another Batman? You know, maybe they go the direction that you're talking about where, you know, you have Terry McGinnis come in as Batman Beyond, but that's supposed to be in the future.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where obviously Aquaman 2 is probably going to make a lot of money, so they're going to do a third. The Flash, I would imagine, just on Keaton's appearance alone, it's going to make a lot of money, and they're giving the Flash a solo movie to clearly set up another one. So they're going to continue being these characters, you would have to think, for the next, you know, few years here. Yeah. So it's like the only thing you could do is say, hey, timelines are messed up. Now they're in another timeline. They're not connected to that anymore, or just bring in a new Batman and say everything continues, but these little things change because Barry ran. I don't know. It's kind of like the talking in circles in the sense we don't know what they're going to do, but they have to do something and let us know.
This really is just speaking to what we were talking about, you know, just a few minutes ago, which is the frustration of we don't know what any of this is doing. Mm-hmm. We don't know what is this. Is one story furthering another, or are these all just self-contained? Like, what is it all for? Should we just be focusing on the individual characters and not anticipating, you know, this character is going to tie into what's happening on this character's, you know, film or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, we're so used to the Marvel timeline that, you know, that's kind of what people's anticipation tends to be these days. But I don't think that that's really fair. I think this is, you know, it's not our fault. It's not just that, oh, we're just used to the MCU, so we just expect it all to be tied together. It's that this is what DC set out.
Yeah,
DC is the one who initiated this. So, you know, we're just looking for some kind of an answer. That's pretty much it. Both of them look, you know, we only got one image for each, Batgirl and Blue Beetle. Both of them look very, very comic accurate based on the concept art. That's all they are, is concept art. We don't really have much of anything to go on. But, I mean, definitely the fact that they're both going to land on HBO Max would lend you to believe that the quality is probably going to be very good. But we'll have to wait and see, because we don't really know much of anything about those.
No, they just talked about, going back to, you know, Blue Beetle and Batgirl, they just kind of hinted at it. They're like, it's coming. They confirmed Barbara's going to have red hair, all that stuff. Blue Beetle seems fun. Seeing them talk about that seems like it's going to be really fun. I'm a fan of Jaime Reyes in the comics anyway, Blue Beetle. I love him in Young Justice, so I can't wait for that one. And you know, I'm just a Batman fan, so I do want to see what they do with Batgirl. I think I said it for a while. I'm like, how you not going to do a Batgirl movie? Like, Batgirl's one of the, especially female characters. She's probably what, like, kind of, it's like when you think of female superheroes, it's like Wonder Woman, Batgirl, and it's probably Supergirl. So it's like, how you not? Like, it's about dang time.
I totally agree. My big thing, though, is how do you do a Batgirl movie without Batman?
And who's going to be her dad?
And we're right back to one.
It's just whatever. Anyway.
So yeah, both of those look, both of those, I think both of us anticipate or are excited about those, and they both look fun.
But let's move out of the film stuff. Actually, I guess there's one more film thing to talk about, right?
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much wraps up most of the film, the big stuff. But there is that.
There's a one announcement.
Yeah, there's
one announcement.
Well, I mean, it kind of is an announcement.
I mean, it's an announcement.
It's fair.
Yeah, they announced that Wonder Woman 3 is coming.
Yes.
And that the original...
They confirmed
that the original Linda Carter from the TV series will be in the third Wonder Woman installment, which we saw at the end of the second Wonder Woman movie. So we knew that was coming. It's just confirmation that it's coming.
Yes. What I thought was interesting is that they didn't really say she's in it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't really say... Like, oh, it's great to have her. I guess probably because we already saw her in Wonder Woman 84.
That's how it ended.
So, but they really didn't tell us that was going to be anything meaningful either. But you kind of assumed it. It was just kind of weird.
Yeah,
it was a little bit. It was very ambiguous.
Right.
I'll put it like that. I don't know why I did this really dramatic arm movement, but it was very ambiguous. Like you could have easily gone either way with it, and maybe that's because they intentionally made Wonder Woman 84, as we've talked about before, this kind of floating story that it was very careful not to touch anything.
Yeah, it was still in the past.
Right. It was just really self-contained. Like very clearly, intentionally self-contained. So, you could have either gone either way with the Linda Carter insertion. So they were just very careful, I thought, even in the interview between Patty Jenkins and Linda Carter talking about it. They were just very careful about their wording, it seemed.
Linda Carter, too. She's like, because I'm sure she's done some stuff, but she hasn't done anything like that. Actually, she hasn't done anything this big ever, I would imagine.
No way.
Yeah, right? Like, she did a TV show, and that's her
way.
claim to fame, and, and that's awesome. I remember watching that kid as a show. I'm watching that show as a kid. I loved it. But, like, she's never been in a movie, like a blockbuster movie like this.
No, I mean, she's the original live-action Wonder Woman. She's the first.
It's the equivalent of, like, freaking Adam West, right? Going from TV to getting that movie. Was that 66 movie actually released in theaters with the shark repellent? That wasn't released in theaters, was it? Or was it?
I don't know, actually.
See, because
I don't know the answer to that.
See, I was a kid. By the time I watched it, it was like already been on home video and stuff here. So I don't know.
1966.
I don't know if that was
1968, whatever.
So I don't know if that's a fair comparison.
That's long before either of you and I.
Right. So I don't know if that's a fair comparison because maybe that was released in theaters. I don't know if it was home video or a TV movie. I don't know. I know I loved it, but I don't know how it was originally released. Anyway. Point is, I'm like.
The
point is, she's in it. I'm just like this weird long ramble. She's in it, and the first Wonder Woman movie is still one of top 2 DCEU movies for me. Still, I will stick to it. I love that first freaking movie. So it was really shocking to me that the second movie I did not love nearly as much. I was really disappointed, unfortunately. So the first movie is an origin story. Obviously, that takes place way in the past, right?
Yes, right.
Wonder Woman 84 is in the 80s, obviously. So we're getting closer to the present.
What gave it away?
Yeah, right. So I would imagine that this third installment, we're finally in the present. You would hope. One would hope. But I feel like
this one's going to be Wonder Woman 1996.
I hope they're just not scared to go all the way to the present, because if they do go all the way to the present, that means she's already been part of the Justice League. She's already made Batman, Superman, all these people. So they would have to answer some questions and confirm, like, oh, yeah, when you help save the world against freaking Darkseid or Steppenwolf, right? So I don't know. It's one of those things, again, like, everything in the DCEU or DCEU, quote unquote, because we don't even know what the DCEU entails anymore, is just like a little annoying to talk about as far as like continuity, because we don't know. Is it in the DCEU? What is the DCEU still? I haven't even heard people like Warner Brother heads and stuff use the term DC. When's the last time you heard a director or official from Warner Brothers say DCEU?
I have no clue.
See, like
it's been a long time.
It has been,
well, no. I heard them when they were asking the executives, the Warner Brothers executives, about the Snyderverse.
Okay.
They were asking them specifically about the DCEU, and then it was referenced just recently when they were saying that we're not going to pursue the Snyderverse any further. But
they haven't, in talking about Aquaman, Fear of the Gods, Black Adam, any of these movies, Batgirl, like, has any director been like, yeah, in DCEU, blah, blah, like, no one said anything about it?
Not that I've heard.
Neither have I. Maybe they have, but you haven't heard it. I haven't personally heard it. So it's just kind of weird that, again, I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over, but it's this weird limbo. I just want to know, is it a universe or is it not? What happened now?
It definitely feels like they're trying to distance themselves from that.
Yeah, but
without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm just done. I'm not. It's like
the longer this has gone on, you're just going downhill.
It's like I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. We're not gonna get the answer, so I'm just aggravating myself, talking in circles.
Yeah,
it's annoying.
It is, and the Wonder Woman thing doesn't make it any better, because again, the first Wonder Woman movie was fantastic. The second Wonder Woman movie, 1984, left, I would just say, much to be desired, and the third they just keep saying things like, we're super excited about what we have coming in Wonder Woman 3, right? Which, of course, is what every creator and executive is going to say.
Yeah.
But they haven't released any details.
Nope.
But we now know and have confirmation in a very ambiguous way that Linda Carter is going to play a role of some sort as Asteria in this film. As she did, she was revealed to be Asteria at the end, and that's how that's going to play a role. Do you remember in that scene, that end credit scene? Do you remember if that was still in 1980s?
I don't remember.
I think it was because I remember
possibly.
Her outfit in my head. Kind of,
she's like walking down that street or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
She saved a little girl, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, something like that. As you can see, we were very we really locked these things in.
I saw that movie
memory banks
once, and
I've seen it twice.
You've seen it twice.
I've seen it twice.
Again, I will say this: it was just a disappointment for me, especially after how much I loved the first one. Because Gal Gadot is awesome as a Wonder Woman. Like the first one was great, so I know all the components are there. Patty Jenkins killed it in the first one. Everyone. The first one again, one of my favorite superhero movies. I think it would be in my top 10 favorite superhero movies of all time. But it's like this. It's for me. It was like, how do you go from one of my favorite superhero movies of all time, live action, to I'm not gonna remember this in a week.
I guess I wasn't as I wasn't as harsh with it because it wasn't any casting issues or anything like that. Everybody that they had in it,
and there wasn't like
it was the script.
It was a Diana story too. Like
the
origin. See, for the origin stories all day long because that character is becoming that hero or that whatever becoming that hero. So I get it. You have to lay the groundwork. But anything after the origin story, the first film, they're established. So she's Wonder Woman. You can go on the ground running. You don't have to worry about all this stuff. But for some reason, it was still like, instead of having her run around in her her superhero suit, it's like, let's just see her be a detective going around as Diana. And it's like, the movie's called Wonder Woman 84, not Diana Prince 84.
Yeah, and the whole movie was exploring her, longing to be reunited.
I mean, don't get me, there were some parts, with Steve Trevor. There's some parts I liked, but overall, it's whatever.
Well, it's not that they okay.
I love how I'm just getting so fed up. I'm just like, whatever. Forget it. Let's move on.
Again, I'm just gonna go finish what I was saying there before, because it really is, for me, it's just basically the bottom line. It wasn't about the director. It wasn't about the casting. It was the script. Yeah. And the script, I feel, was the resulting script was a direct result of the DCEU, the Snyderverse imploding just as they were making this film.
So you think it was just like bad timing on their part? Like it was just like unfortunate?
They still had to move forward with the movie. There was too much invested. It was time. They needed to get some sort of return on their investment on these other things, on these breakout properties, because remember, Justice League took a beating, in every way possible under, the one that was theatrically released.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy to think about still? Like the first Justice League movie was just like fell apart.
Yeah, it's insane.
Unfortunate.
So you had all of these things imploding and falling apart in the Snyderverse and the DCEU, and they had no idea where they were going or what they were doing. So that's why I emphasize, like, this was very strategically self-contained. But that also meant that you had to be very careful what toys you played with. You had to be careful not to imply or touch anything that they might want to deal with later on. You had to we got Cheetah and this very strange version of Cheetah and this really strange story around, her wanting Steve Trevor back. And I mean, there was a lot of things that weren't the best, but I think it's the result of when the movie got made, as far as the script, when the movie got made and the fact that they were like, we don't want you messing with a lot of these things because we're going to want to deal with them later.
But they have a shot for redemption now.
With Wonder Woman 3?
With Wonder Woman 3, yes.
They do, and I'm very curious to see, where are you going to go with this?
For sure, because I think the general consensus...
For the same reason as everything else.
Yeah, I think the general consensus, too, would be that overall, Wonder Woman was very much okay. Like, you didn't really... Once it came out, like, it did well for HBOMax, obviously, because we were still, like, in the midst of the pandemic and stuff like that. Right. I believe it was one of the first big movies they even released digitally on HBOMax with the service. But it was
the first, yeah.
Yeah, but critically or just fan wise, I guess for our purposes, fans were like, yeah, okay, moving on.
Well, the movie itself was not a result of the pandemic, I don't think. Like the movie we got, I'm saying.
No.
Because that was pretty much ready to go.
Right. I'm just talking about like the fan reaction to the movie, like how it was received. Because do you hear anyone ever bring up Wonder Woman 84? Really? No. So it's like people are constantly bringing up the Snyder
Cut.
There
are people that like it.
Yeah, like anything.
Obviously,
like anything. Yeah. But no, I'm not gonna. I'll be nice. I'll be nice.
Yeah. Again, let's hope Wonder Woman 3 is an improved story, but also, maybe we're gonna get something really cool out of it as we learn more about where they're freaking going with all this stuff. So, I mean, again, just to kind of close out my thoughts, just as all the movies and the bigger pieces, it really did end up with a lot of fun things, a lot of like, wow, that could be cool.
Yeah.
Or when it comes to the Batman, my God, can we get to that, please? There was some very cool pieces. But there was this kind of the hovering. Can we get some answers about where this is all going? Remains.
You know what it is? I'm gonna break this down in the most like nerdy analogy I can give.
Oh, I cannot wait to hear where this
because
goes.
you triggered something. I'm like, it is kind of like that. So like, Black Adam, Fury of the Gods, Aquaman 2, all awesome on their own, right? Really cool. Kind of like the Power Rangers Dinozords.
Oh, God.
Right? No.
This is worse.
Or we can go Voltron.
This
right?
is worse.
So you got Tyrannosaurus. Freaking great. You got Mastodon, right? Awesome. Triceratops. Right. All powerful and great on their own.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But when they combined him.
When they come together.
They make the Dino Megazord. Which is not to be trifled with, Tim. So what I'm in that scenario, all these DC movies could be fantastic. And a lot of them, a lot of stuff we see looks awesome on its own. But if you were to connect that and put it together in your DCEU and your universe, how much better would it be? Tell me I'm wrong. I'm looking at you guys. For the guys who are watching this on YouTube, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, that's a good analogy, Arris.
DC Megazord.
That's a good analogy. Right,
I would have gone with Voltron.
Whatever, but point is, whether you like the analogy or not, you get what I'm trying to say. Yes. That like together they could be great individually they could be awesome on their own, but together, all connected, it's that much better. Case in point, the MCU. A big part of what makes that work so much is how they connect everything together, and we get these awesome like team ups and crossovers. And like, oh, that's cool. You just mentioned Captain America, and you're literally only on it for like a school video in Spider-Man, but it's cool because it lets us know this is the same world. Just is that too much to ask? Megazord, Tim. Dino Megazord. Apparently, give us the DC Dino Megazord.
Apparently it is too much to ask. And, I think that's kind of, if you're looking at minority versus majority amongst DC fans, you're probably going to have the majority that feel the same way. It's like, these things are all cool, and I'm looking forward to each one of them individually. Sure. But it'd be great if we could get some answers as to whether or not these characters are ever going to come together in a satisfying way.
Because it's more frustrating. I think.
I mean, you're gonna get the people that are the Snyderverse crowd that are gonna come out and say, "This is why we got to reinstate the Snyderverse." And
I mean, after seeing the Snyder Cut, I'm not
there's
opposed.
A fair argument to be made to let them do that. But they've already said they're not, and there's no signs, even though they're trying to resurrect that again now, that they're going to.
Because I definitely want to see what happens with that Superman Gone Bad in the Nightmareverse.
That was like
the ultimate, like, wouldn't this be cool? You're probably never going to get it.
Yeah, that was as crazy that they would release that in that way and leave it at that cliffhanger.
When Affleck told Joker, he's like, "Oh, make no mistake, I will kill you." But he used the word, Tim, again, family show, but he said it. He drove that point home.
He was serious. But even like where they left things off with Darkseid.
Yeah, no, everything.
I mean,
Superman,
it was
Darkseid, yeah.
It was like, wow, how do you not finish this now? Well, why would you put this out and not finish it? Like unless you had the intention to do so. So
there's talks like,
who knows? Maybe they will.
Apparently, like there's still a merger going on with Warner Brothers right now. Still,
sure, yep.
That apparently once that finishes, then they'll start negotiations with Snyder. That's a rumor that's why because he is quiet, and he wasn't quiet before even.
No.
So I think he knows like not the time. Once it's done, then I'll start going out.
That very well may be the case. And, I think there's a lot of people, us included, that would say, man, hopefully so. And maybe in the end, maybe that's the reason they're just kind of doing everything they can to keep Wonder Woman and Aquaman and these characters
Could you imagine if that is the reason they're like holding off?
And it winds up getting resurrected. They wind up getting their universe, and it continues on HBOMax. And, they start building something around Robert Pattinson, Batman, and so forth on the big screen, and that's the way it ends up. That very well is possible.
It is possible.
It's just, again, I would just love to, we've been sitting in limbo now with this DCEU for, 5 years?
It seems like 100, but yeah.
So, that's the bottom line. It's just like everything was exciting. It was very fun. But some broader answers would be great.
We're like, as we transition out of the films, 20 minutes later. 20 minutes. Anyway, for real this time. Yeah. So let's talk
on to the next.
Something that I guess it's in the DCEU, but it's HBO Max. I don't know.
We're right back here. We're back in the car again.
Yeah, solid reference. Peacemaker. Peacemaker is coming to HBO Max. That is not a movie. Yeah. It is a limited series. I think they said 6 or 8 episodes. They want to do more already, as long as I guess it does well. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of James Gunn's Suicide Squad, specifically Bloodsport, Peacemaker, and Polka Dot Man. I like them all, but I really like Peacemaker and Bloodsport. Peacemaker getting his own series. We got a trailer for it, an official trailer. And to keep it short and simple, I thought it's hilarious. It's more of the John Cena we've seen in Suicide Squad. It's written directed by James Gunn, so no duh. He has a pet freaking eagle named Eagly that literally walks on the ground and follows him like a pet dog. Hilarious.
That part I think is
dude. The bit in the trailer where he's talking about like the butt baby, that whole reference. He's like, did you see that part in the trailer where they show him a picture of the people that he's hired to go after with his new crew, and he's like, that couple had those kids. One of those is definitely a butt baby.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Saying, my brother told me, he's like, I was a butt baby. Basically saying like butt babies come out of the butt. That's why they're ugly. Like there was a lot of bits like that. It was just really, really funny. I love John Cena. I like what he's doing with Peacemaker. James Gunn, freaking love him too. So again, keeping it short and simple, I'm excited for the show.
Yeah, we've already talked about. We just talked about recently. I'm not the Suicide Squad wasn't my cup of tea. The one thing I will say that I laughed pretty hard at was when the eagle hugs him.
Oh, at the end of the trailer, and with his dad,
he's like, he's hugging me. He's like, Dad, I don't want to move. He's hugging me.
Take a picture.
Take a picture,
dude.
That was funny.
That relationship is gonna be
the eagle thing is
the
funny.
fact that he has an eagle because America, justice, and then he drives like this old muscle car that's like spray painted, like again America.
Yeah,
awesome because he's
it's pretty funny.
But I also like the tone of like how it seems they might be exploring by the end of this first season. He might end up being more of a good guy, right? Because
it seems very much so, yeah.
Because they even acknowledge in the trailer, it's like, I think you're a jerk or a douche to people because of you're scared to get
try to push people
away because you don't want to get too close and get hurt. So I'm like, oh, are they gonna like end it where you kind of feel for him a little bit and like, okay, he's probably still a little bit of a douche, but at least like he's more on the good side of douche, if that makes any sense. More likable, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt that way. It definitely felt like that was kind of the direction they were going to go with it. And watch, they'll like make you feel like that's the direction, and then at the end they just do a hard right, and he's right back to being this guy you love to hate. So I mean, there was definitely a couple of funny things that made me laugh in the trailer. It wasn't it's not my most anticipated by a landslide, but the fact that this is one thing I will say is that for things like Peacemaker, the fact that they're putting the same amount of effort into it that they did for like the big screen is very promising for everything else that's going to come.
Blue Beetle, Batgirl.
Yeah, like Gotham PD.
Yes.
Stuff like that. That's really encouraging.
It's going to be same quality.
Exactly. Yeah. That we're going to be seeing something similar to what Disney and Marvel Studios has done for Disney+.
And Warner Brothers, in order to stay competitive, they have to do that.
Exactly.
You can't be giving us
100%.
Stuff like... Because I always say there's like tiers, right? You have like CW, which is like the basic, right?
Right.
As far as DC, right? You have the basic live action DC stuff. Then you have stuff like Titans and Legion of Doom, where it's like definitely better than CW, but still not Hollywood yet. And then now we have the Peacemaker, Batgirl, Beetle, and then it's like, so I love that they're doing top tier live action with Peacemaker and hopefully Blue Beetle and Batgirl.
I would love to know, like, who kicked who in the balls, like regarding the competition between Marvel Studios and Warner. Like, who was it who said, doggone it, they're doing this for television? You know what I mean? And the other was like, now we got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, because you know it started with one or the other. My leanings would be Marvel Studios.
For sure. I would agree with that.
But I think that is, it's a win for all of us because we're getting almost theater grade entertainment getting created for,
especially you know
1 hour series.
Yeah, Warner Brothers and DC had been like, what the success of like Loki, WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They're like, oh well, like literally the only way to stay competitive is we have to do the same thing too. And so like as soon as they were done filming the Suicide Squad, they were like, hey, or maybe James going to approach them, but either way, they worked out. They were like, hey, you want to do something same level, but for HBO Max?
Right.
You want to take one of those characters out? Who do you want to do? We need something to compete with. And then Batgirl, and because originally Batgirl was supposed to be in the theaters. This was announced years ago, like in 2015 when a Nightwing movie was still on the table.
Yeah.
That was supposed to, Joss Whedon was attached to it originally. Right. That was supposed to be in theaters, but they're like, oh, well, maybe, again, we need to stay competitive on our streaming platform. So we'll just start doing like theater, quality stuff for the streaming.
Because they are, man, Warner Brothers, understandably. I mean, we have entered a whole new age of content distribution.
Yes, for sure.
For sure. And, they are pushing hard over at Warner to load up the HBOMax platform with a lot of really good content to compete with Disney, because Disney's going to catch up to freaking Netflix. They're going to, in terms of the subscriber base, they're going in the next couple of years. We talked about that like a last podcast. They're going to catch up to Netflix. And that's saying something. So HBO Max is way behind.
It makes you wonder, like, how long, because Warner Brothers has Harry Potter, the Wizarding World. It makes you wonder, like, how long before they do some sort of spin-off in the Harry Potter verse, because that would be huge.
I do not think it will be long, bro. I don't think we will have much longer to wait, because we got the Fantastic Beasts that are still coming. We've got, in fact, the new one they just announced recently, the subtitle for The Secrets of Dumbledore, which is a freaking dope subtitle, by the way. And I am very excited, as I know you are too, to see Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh yes, take over for Johnny Depp.
Take over as what's his name?
Grindelwald.
Grindelwald. Thank you. So that's really going to be fun. And we've got, I believe, this is the third of a 5-movie series. It's a 5-movie arc, I believe. So we've got a couple more movies after that, but there's like little feelers that have been going out, I think, for a little while about the resurrection of maybe doing like a Cursed Child, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, as a some kind of an ongoing series. Or
as far as IPs that Warner owns, I mean, obviously DC, but then I feel like the Wizarding World, Harry Potter, has got to be, as far as massive world-renowned IPs.
Yep,
that's got to be next in line, right? After DC Comics, it's got to be Harry Potter.
But it all falls into J.K. Rowling's lap, because it depends. She is retained. But
that's what makes
she's smart.
If they announce it, that's what'll make me happy, because she will not approve something that is not going to be of quality.
Yep.
So
I mean, you'll have a lot of Harry Potter fans argue that, well, the last the Fantastic Beasts movies have been nowhere near the Harry Potter stories.
I mean, I would say that obviously the Harry Potter film franchise is better. I like more than the Fantastic Beasts, but that's obvious, right? Like, that's kind of like apples and oranges, I feel like,
for me,
in a ways.
There has not been that much of a drop-off. It's just different, and people don't like different.
Do you enjoy
I do.
As much as the Harry Potter proper stuff?
It's different. It feels different because they're in the U.S., they're back in time. It's in the U.S., it's a whole new cast.
You know what it is, too?
But I love they're telling us a story that's introducing the origins.
Yeah, they're going back. Yeah,
of
prequels.
Not just Dumbledore, but how the Elder Wand ended up in Dumbledore's hands, like all that stuff. It's just going to add so much richness to that whole Harry Potter mythos. Yeah. And she didn't really write stories about the Fantastic Beasts stories the way that she did the Harry Potter. They're writing them as screenplays, basically. She just wrote some basic foundational stuff. So I personally am enjoying it just about as much. But I recognize that it's different, obviously, and it's not going to have the same nostalgic draw, because, again,
that's a big
you're dealing with whole generations of people that literally grew up with these characters.
You were getting older as they were getting older.
Exactly.
Yes. Which I think is the kind of the brilliance of those films.
Really smart.
It's like, oh, because, you know, if you're 10 years old and then when the next movie comes out, you've aged with Harry Potter and Hermione and stuff like that. So it's like, wow, this is really cool. So as you got more mature, the movies got more mature, which was brilliant.
It's true.
From that standpoint.
Very, very smart. And HBO Max, you know, or Warner Brothers, I should say, really smart to bring that back. Because remember, they had dropped it off.
You know what else is back too? All the Batman films.
It's exactly what I was about to say.
Finally.
And that was where I was going, because they're everything that we complained about HBO Max when it first launched and for the first little while, where it's like, why would you have all these franchises and you don't even have them up on your streaming service? Like, what are you doing? And we recognize, like, obviously there's contractual issues they got to work their way through. Disney had similar ones. What Disney did a good job of was letting people know when things were coming. They would actually put the banner up and the title up on Disney Plus, and they would say it arrives at this date. And it was whenever the contracts expired with Netflix or what Amazon Prime or whatever it was. Warner didn't do that. HBO Max did not do that. So you would just see stuff drop off all of a sudden. They would tell you like, oh, you know, next month this is going away, with no knowledge about. Okay, well, is it going to still? Are you going to bring? Well,
Disney Plus has always been really good at being transparent with the fan base.
Very good.
Just
organized.
Yeah,
they definitely had a smarter rollout. Having said that, to HBO and Warner Brothers credit, they're correcting a lot of those things. A lot of the stuff that we were like, why would they take this? All of that is back. All the Batman films, i.e.
Watch they drop off next month again.
Yeah, right. They brought back the entire Harry Potter franchise for the 20th anniversary. Let's see if it sticks. But Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit.
That's the thing. Like, unless you have contracts in place, which I imagine is the only reason why you pull it off. But it's like, it's just annoying that you would put it on. And then again, like, let's say next month it's off. It's like, this is your streaming platform. So like Disney, it needs to live on there.
Yes.
Like, just let it live. That's the whole point. That's why I'm paying you $10 whatever a month to have access to this whenever I want. Not like, oh, I want to watch, you know, The Dark Knight Rises. Oh, it's not on here because you took it off last week. Like, that's annoying. It's like, why am I paying for this then? You know?
The whole point of me getting a subscription with Warner Brothers is to see Warner Brothers properties.
Exactly.
So, and the other thing that they've improved as the streaming platform is built up, they've integrated, you know, or they've developed further their Sesame Street stuff, their Looney Tunes stuff, Turner Classic Movies, which was there, but they've dramatically built the catalog. They've taken all the DC stuff and they've put it into a really nice catalog that's separate, where you can just go and identify DC and you see all the DC animated stuff, the Disney live action shows, on and on and on. So I feel like they've really improved it and it's much, much better than it was. But again, as they're adding all these things like Blue Beetle, like, you know, Batgirl, Gotham PD, all these other things that we're talking about, and now things like Peacemaker and hopefully whatever else lands there that we're hoping for. I would love to see a Bloodsport.
That'd be great.
That's the one that I'm really hoping that they announce that's the next thing as a Bloodsport series would be great. But we'll see. They're doing a much better job, and I'm definitely encouraged by the quality.
Yeah, but they got some other TV shows too. They announced Harley Quinn season 3. Getting that, they showed the animation isn't done, so they did a good gag with that,
right.
Where Harley was like, "It's not done, but we'll show you what you got," and it's cool because, you know, they break like the fourth wall and stuff like that, so it lends itself to it. I know that's a very popular series. I love that series, so I'm excited for that. But also Young Justice Phantoms, Tim. Now that was
a surprise.
That was one of the coolest things they did, because we got a poster for it a few weeks before. We knew it was coming, but there was no release date.
Right.
They were just
they didn't even talk about it much.
No, they were just like, we'll talk about it at DC Fandome. Like, we knew it was going to be like a segment they did. And when they started talking about it, they showed the trailer, and then after they showed the trailer, like, oh, by the way, the first 2 episodes are available right now on HBO Max. Right. Which is just like, they pulled like a freaking like Beyonce or something, where it's like, without warning, just drop an album. It's like, oh, that's dope. Because like, I was just hoping for like, when it's going to come out, thinking like around December, maybe next year. Like, nope, first 2 episodes available right now. So just like that, without any warning, they're just like, boom, Young Justice season 4, let's go. And I'm very excited.
Yeah, I haven't seen season 3.
You gotta watch season 3.
I have not seen season 3.
I will say, for me personally, it wasn't as good as the first 2 seasons. But I think what it's setting up for this fourth season is gonna be great. So I haven't watched the first 2 episodes yet. They've been up obviously since DC Fandome, but I'm excited to dive in.
I'm basically where you are with Clone Wars.
Like, okay,
I'm behind because I'm not gonna watch season 4 because I haven't seen season 3. So I have to watch that. So it's gonna be a minute before I get to it, but. That was a pretty fun surprise.
Yeah, I like that they did. They just dropped it.
It was the only one? that was like that?
That they just dropped like that?
Yeah.
If memory serves
that was
me
like
correct.
a big reveal, like, hey, boom, like this is available now.
Yeah.
Sort of a thing. But yeah, definitely a fun surprise. And, you know, from a visual standpoint, it looks really fun.
For sure, yeah. And then I guess as far as just, that's the only HBOMax stuff, right?
Where is Catwoman Hunted?
That's going to be an animated film.
But is it going straight to HBOMax?
I think it's going to go digital Blu-ray, and then it'll eventually end up on HBOMax.
Okay, so they're not going to release it on HBO.
Not until like a month or so after, like they do with all their animated films.
Okay, yeah, because we had that, you know, separate from HBO Max. We had that, and we had The Injustice. We saw more of
which is available now, actually.
Yeah,
that is out, so you guys could watch it right now.
Which looks really good.
It does look really, really good. I'm excited. Did you watch the interview with Ed Boon?
I didn't get to see
Ed Boon, who's, you know, co-creator of Mortal Kombat and Injustice, all that stuff, NetherRealm Studios. He talked about it, and he was like, they put a lot of the finishers, because he was one of the guys who basically like their reference, right? Like one of the, not a creative lead, but he was like kind of there. They're like, hey, does this work? And they're like, yeah, because he's one of the co-creators, right? So whatever that title's called, but he was like, it was cool seeing it, because he's like, there's so many heroes and villains in it. And he's like, what was really cool is I don't want to give it away, but they used a lot of finishers from the game, from the Injustice game in the movie. I'm like, oh, that's
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's brutal, right? So, because Injustice is essentially just Mortal Kombat with DC heroes, right? With a really cool story of what happens if, you know, Superman snapped one day, and it deals with ideology and stuff like that. Batman's on this side, Superman's on that side. Really great story. Sparked one of the most successful comics and just Elseworld stories in DC history. Still going strong. And I hope we get an Injustice 3 pretty soon, because they didn't announce an Injustice 3, did they? I didn't see that.
No,
I believe I feel like I would have seen that somewhere.
No, and you would have heard it, I imagine.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that.
Because they talked about other DC games that we're about to talk about in a second, but they didn't announce that.
No.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm super excited for that. And then you got Batwoman, you got Supergirl's in its final season, you got
you have all the
DC
CW
Legends,
stuff.
yeah.
Well, a couple more it's not CW, HBO Max stuff. We got Doom Patrol season 3.
That's right, Doom Patrol. Yep.
Doom Patrol season 3.
It's currently streaming now.
Yeah, it's I think it's in like episode 5.
Yeah,
now,
it's a few episodes in.
Yeah, it's a few episodes in. So, but they expanded a little bit more on where that might be going, and then they talked about announced Titans season 4.
That's right, they confirmed it.
So there's that too. So there was a couple of other things here and there between HBO.
So
Max
much to remember.
There was, and we haven't even touched on the comic stuff. They did some. They got in. Well, the Superman stuff we talked a little bit about. But you know, Milestone Comics and stuff like that.
Dude, we have to mention that real quick. So the Milestone Comics thing was crazy, because we know we're getting that they're going to be a lot more prominent within the DC universe and comics. But the thing that hit with me is they touched again briefly on Michael B. Jordan's involvement with Static, the live action movie.
Yeah, right.
Still going ahead nice and strong, but also that the Milestone universe is going to get their first animated movie.
Oh, wow.
Which is really fun.
I didn't see that. Did they? No, did they? Okay, just let me preface, because I keep saying things I didn't see. On the day of Fandome, I forgot what time the thing started.
Right.
So I was my son had a football game. So I was at a football game trying to listen to
Did you have your AirPods in?
I did.
That's funny.
So I'm trying to listen to and kind of
Good
pay
play,
attention
son.
while watching my son play football. So giving precedent, obviously, to my boys playing football. And so there were some things that I missed.
But yeah, they released a poster for whatever. I think that's the cover of what's going to end up being the Blu-ray cover and stuff like that. But you know, we know we're getting our first Milestone animated movie with Static and Icon and all that stuff. So I'm really excited for that, because I was a massive fan of the Static Shock 90s animated series. That's what actually really kind of got me into Milestone.
I was a little bit older at the time, so I didn't watch it as much. My younger brother Ryan was great. He was a big fan of it.
Which I believe that series is streaming on HBO Max.
Right.
So, but yeah, a lot of cool announcements regarding the HBO Max stuff for DC, and then even just the Milestone stuff was really cool.
Yeah, very fun.
I'm really excited to see an animated movie with Static and Icon. That's gonna be dope, because Icon we've seen briefly in Young Justice. Static had his own series. We've seen him in what is it? Was it Batman Beyond or Justice League Unlimited? We've seen him in the Bruce Timm-verse, so it'll be fun to see him again in animated form, flying around on a freaking manhole cover.
Oh, I see. It's Hardware.
So yeah, we're gonna have Hardware in there, Icon, Rocket, Static. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah,
that's cool. So they had, you know, you had the big the big like e-ticket attractions out. Obviously, it's just like Comic-Con, and then you had a whole slew of like smaller announcements, comics, television. You had all the CW stuff, of course.
Although like every Comic-Con, it's like comics was it's funny because it's like all this stuff came from the comics, but the actual comic book news is always kind of like an afterthought.
Minimized.
Because they talked about Milestone, they talked about the new Superman story a little bit, but that's pretty much, I can't even think of another comic book they talked about Batwing, I guess, a little bit, but it was like a one-off series in Batman Urban Legends from the guy who's playing the live-action Batwing on CW. So he was just talking about how he got to write a Batwing story. So it's just like, it's just really minimum. And it's kind of sad because like, without comics, we wouldn't be talking about all these movies.
Fact.
It's like source material, man.
I would say that the most time that they spent on any one thing was stuff like Milestone.
Yeah. They had a lot to talk about,
as far as comics go.
Yeah, they had a lot to, because it's been,
about.
I remember, again, we went to New York Comic Con, or it was San Diego Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con years ago, and one of the questions, we were in a press junket or a press meeting for everyone with press that got to sit in on a breakfast listening to Dan DiDio and Jim Lee talk, and they were, remember, people were asking, it's like, what about the Dakotaverse? What about Milestone? That was literally like 4 or 5 years ago now.
Feels like eternity.
This last year or so, they're finally started releasing Milestone stuff, and now they're going all out, getting an animated movie. The Static Shock live action movie's coming, so I'm happy, man. Because
fun to see it come full circle finally. Because real legitimately, it feels like it's been eternity.
Yeah, because they announced it so long ago, and it's like, okay, 6 years later, we're finally here.
Right. Yeah.
But so Gotham Knights, Tim.
Dude, let me tell you something. All right, we talk about it all the time. We'll just reiterate for the millionth time for everybody watching and listening. Neither of us are big gamers. He's more of a gamer than I am. But that Gotham Knights new game from Rocksteady, holy crap.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Okay, this isn't the first time we've seen it. We got our first taste of it actually at DC Fandome last year, I believe, right? And we were impressed then.
Yeah.
They showed a lot more this year, and I was like, this looks like a freaking movie or television show.
Like an animated movie. Yeah.
Like crazy good.
I'm excited.
I am excited to play that one.
Well,
because the richness and the depth of the story that they went with. You've got the Court of Owls.
The villains.
As the main villains.
The Talons.
Which is just looks like it's going to be all the fun. And the cast of characters.
Tim.
Dude.
I
know you're going to go to Red Hood.
I'm going to go to Red Hood. It's Batman, right?
Yeah.
But Red Hood. Obviously, Batman rules roost for me, right? But right under is kind of Red Hood, right? Like, I love Red Hood. I love Nightwing. I love Nightwing, but there's just something about Red Hood. It's just like, he's more complex in the sense where, his backstory is more, exactly what I just said, more complex, where he's the bad boy, right? So it's always fun to explore, like, that kind of things where he's the Raphael of the Bat family.
Raphael,
right?
It's true.
Yes,
that's true.
They're
fair comparison.
They even both wear red. So I'm really excited to get to play as Batgirl, Red Hood, obviously, Nightwing, and Robin. I'm so excited. Apparently, if we remember from last year, in this universe or this time that the game takes place, Jim Gordon and Batman are dead. They're dead. So
they're all dead.
They're dead. So it's pretty crazy, pretty crazy, and I'm excited to play it because again, I've only played like Injustice, basically superhero games. I don't play many games. I play Switch. That's just fun. Like I play with my family and stuff, and a little bit myself.
I think you play mostly like Mario Kart against your wife.
Yeah, or Mario, like stuff like that. Yeah. Or like fighting games and stuff.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Yeah, all this big superhero games like the Spider-Man games for PlayStation, I have to play. So obviously, Gotham Knights.
It's like me, like when a new Lord of the Rings game comes out, I have to play it.
Yeah, you just have to.
Yeah. So like we're drawn to the things that are usually rich in story, or you get to play a character that is like a comic book character that you love,
right?
And you kind of have fantasized about being. And I'll also correct myself very quickly because I said it was Rocksteady that did Gotham Knights. Rocksteady is the Suicide Squad game. Warner Brothers Games, Montreal is.
I believe also did Arkham
Knights.
Origins, if memory serves me correctly. If I'm wrong, call me out. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm
whatever.
not, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Someone's gonna tell you. Yeah. But dude, that's gonna be a fun game.
That is gonna be a fun game.
I'm looking forward.
I mean, Court of Owls is just one of my favorite Batman villains anyway. So
yeah,
that's gonna be great.
And I just I just am increasingly impressed. It never ceases to amaze me how fast and how far technology is taking.
It's crazy.
The visuals on these games.
It's crazy.
I mean, now with the explosion of AR, VR, you know what I mean? Mixed with these really immersive, incredibly photoreal, visuals for these games. Dude, it's not going to be long. We're going to be seriously in the Matrix.
It's nuts, dude. It's nuts.
Crazy.
Well, let's see. So we talked Gotham Knights. We talked about all the
Suicide Squad game.
That's another. See, dude, there's
another one.
There's so many. Yeah. But the Suicide Squad game, we got more gameplay footage of that, which I personally don't have much more to add besides, it continues to look as much fun as it did last time we saw it, and that's another game I'll have to play. Yeah,
it's very similar to Gotham Knights. Visually, it looks incredibly impressive. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to play with. A fun cast of characters.
I will say at the end of that, the new trailer they showed us where Penguin's getting away and they shocked him. And Amanda Waller is like, "Do we get him?" And they're like, and they did, but they're like, "No, do it again." And he's like getting electrocuted on the floor. They're like, "Nope." She's like, "Did I get him this time?" "Nope, you gotta do it again." They keep electrocuting him. So finally, King Shark's like, "Yeah, I think we gotta blow off his head." Like it just kind of cuts from there. I was like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
But what else do we got to talk about? I feel like we're almost coming to an end.
We've hit the bulk.
Because there's other things, but we hit all the massive pertinent stuff.
There's too many things for us to cover. It would also get boring if we tried to cover every little detail. But we definitely have hit, I think, the majority of the big and the medium-sized
for sure
pieces. Overall, I would just say, once again, Fandom did a good job. It was a fun day.
Very fun.
Kevin
Conroy kicked it off.
Yeah, it was kicked off well, but the theming was great. The lineup was great. My only complaint is what we've already talked about ad nauseum, is that it left me feeling a little bit underwhelmed. One, I kind of wish we had gotten more comic book news. That was just my personal preference, but the main thing is that I didn't feel like we got anything that brought a sense of cohesiveness to where the storylines were going to interconnect, if or not.
Right. I feel like we also didn't get that many big new announcements. A lot of the stuff they talked about this year was stuff they announced last year. We just get to see behind the scenes of it.
Yeah.
Like where last year we saw a lot of stuff and stuff get announced for the first time.
Yes.
So this, though fun, it wasn't as whoa as because they're like, oh, and by the way, we're coming out with this, and Sinbad is gonna be in Fury of the Gods, but also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a lot more of kind of
that's a really good point, actually. That probably aided in the feeling of underwhelmed
for sure
by the end. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. It's there was no, because typically when you go to Comic-Con, especially the big ones, like San Diego Comic-Con, we would go. Always. Inevitably, there's some surprises.
Yeah.
And it just blows everybody's mind. And those end up being the most talked about pieces.
Yep.
Everybody's shocked and it's excitement and blah, 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 blah. And you didn't get that. You just got expansions of what we already knew for the most part. And as we said earlier, not a single mention of Superman. So we did mention that.
Or the Green Lantern series for HBO Max, which they're also working on.
And that could have been one of the big reveals.
It's true, but is it in the DCEU? And round we go. Oh, the last thing we just got to briefly mention, because I know both of us are super excited about it, especially because we both have kids. DC League of Super Pets.
Oh, Super Pets.
Super Pets, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
With
I'm
The
so
Rock
glad you remembered
as Crypto and freaking Kevin Hart as Ace the Bat Hound.
I can't believe I almost forgot that.
Because it looks
I did forget that.
It looks like so much fun.
I walked away. I think I even said it to you. If not, maybe I said it to my kids. I was like, I think from the day, that was one of the things I thought was the most fun.
Oh yeah,
and then I was just like, oh, I actually can't wait to see that.
Yeah, my daughter was in the room like, come here, you're actually gonna want to see this, and she was laughing. She was like, yeah, she was in.
It's like The Secret Life of Pets if they were superheroes.
100%.
It's so good.
Because Kevin Hart does a voice in Secret Life of Pets, and he's Ace the Bat Hound in this. Which and
he keeps peeing.
Yes,
and it's just silence, and Crypto's trying to do the hero pose. He's like, how much did you drink?
Great.
Really?
That's great.
And, and it's whatever. I'm a sucker for family films. I've already said that a
million
times.
We both have kids, so I'm excited that I get to take my daughter to a DC film in theaters.
Yeah. And my kids are all older, so I can't even really use that excuse anymore.
Funny.
I have to just own up that I just want to see it.
That's funny.
So my youngest son, he'll probably be like, yeah,
I have kids.
But they were all
She's 19.
They were all like, because even when I was just like, oh man, that looks so fun.
Yeah.
They were all just like, okay.
Oh man,
They're like,
that's so funny.
okay. I mean, I don't. It's just it's just dogs and pets that are superheroes.
Your 12-year-old's like,
that's in comics, huh? Oh, okay. And I was just like, no, guys, because he's a dog and he flies.
I'm curious to see if they're gonna do like the whole thing where like Bruce is in there,
right?
Because like obviously the Ace is Bruce's dog and Crypto with Clark. I wonder if they'll do the thing where like you don't see their faces; it's like shoulders down, but you hear Clark talking, but you don't
like
see them.
Some Charlie Brown or something.
Yeah, that'd be really funny.
Yeah. So that's a good. Thank you for remembering that. I'm excited about that. Actually, that's next summer, right? May.
Yes.
Is it kicks off the summer? I believe.
So that's another DC movie.
Yeah.
That we get next year.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that. More so than I thought I was going to.
So that's a joyful way to end this podcast.
There you
go. But we've talked about all the DC fandom stuff we're excited about, the stuff we're mad about, and then the DCU in general, if it even exists anymore.
He's in a dark place.
Yeah, jeez.
He's gone to a dark place.
And super pets. So it's super pets and everything in between.
DCU, farewell, and super pets. But yeah, that wraps up our DC fandom. I hope you guys all enjoyed our take on the day. It was actually, again, it was fun. Really fun.
More condensed than last year.
Yeah, and next year, DC, just, I hope you bring more reveals.
More new things.
Arris said so, and I agree.
Or and just tell me whether or not it's all in continuity. With that said, guys, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.